Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Just a great conference so far. It's just been a great few days here together in New York, and just want to thank everybody at Totango for having Data Intensity here. It's really wonderful to be part of this and be part of so many great people and all talking about client success. So as we stated, today we're going to be going through a couple of different things here. Kind of handle this as sort of a two-prong. Jaime's going to start kind of talking about how data intensity implemented Totango and how we were able to do that in about 3 months.
Yep.
About a 3-month implementation. He's going to take us through that and some of the things that he learned, and then after that, we're going to dive in a little bit to how data intensity handles Net Promoter Score, and how we actually use the success block and the success play to drive a successful NPS follow-up plan. A lot of the sessions here have been very high-level strategy, which is great. It's great to hear those themes and hear what people have to say. I will let you know when we get into the NPS thing, it is very tactical. I'm going to take you through some very specific examples of how we actually implement this in the system and how we use it. So again, my name is Seth Freeman, Director of Client Success with Data Intensity.
Jaime Rodriguez, I'm Director of Customer Success and Data Intensity.
Great.
And I was leading the implementation of Totango.
Excellent. And I didn't put any fun facts on my slide, but so I don't know, I'll think of something real quick. I love to ski. I'm a big skier. I guess that's fun. So I'll put you on the spot.
You got me there. I love to read. That's it.
All right, so just to tell a little bit about data intensity. So we are an independent multi-cloud managed services provider. We focus heavily on database administration, and we are, again, in the managed services space, which is a little different than a lot of the people that I've met here. Managed services is a little different flavor than software as a service, but Totango is very important to us, and you got to kind of see it as we use it as a managed services provider. I'm not going to go too much into that. Just a little bit about us real quick. We are a global organization. We have offices all over the country, all over the world. We're primarily focused in the United Kingdom, the United States. We have offices in Russia as well as Poland, Australia. So we are a global organization, which is why we needed to implement something like Totango. Again, about 650 customers, about 800 or so employees. I'm not going to take you through the sales slicks. We're not salesmen, so I did put that in there. But anyway, the agenda that we're going to talk to. All right, fair enough. All right, so what we're going to do is, again, the agenda we're going to do is kind of a quick kind of two. We kind of split this up together. We'd originally talked about doing 2 different sessions, but we decided to kind of combine it into one because it flow naturally into each other. So what Jaime is going to take us through are the keys for a successful Totango implementation, things you need to think about like business alignment, identify how to make data actionable, understanding Totango concepts. And then after that, I'm going to take you through the use case of Net Promoter Score and how I actually use it at Data Intensity, how we drive that through success blocks. Talk a little bit about how, with NPS, it's really not the score that matters, it's the action. And then we'll talk about really some operational things, and efficiency is the key. One question I do have, how many people are prospects with Totango, thinking about using it as opposed to using it? Okay, so the good thing is this session might be a little bit more geared to you guys today. So with that, Jaime, we'll get going.
So I want to give you a little bit of context. We are managed service providers, so there is no product. We are strictly services. And for us, it was a little bit dramatic when we got into Totango. There is a huge transformation in our business. So we were experiencing some erosion, some churn. Our renewal rate was not good, and things were kind of out of control. And because we are a service company, we didn't have customer success organization. Really, we were more like we have technical account managers, and we were focusing more on helping the support teams and the service delivery teams to deliver service. But there was no real attention to customer success. And at some point, we have someone was asking, okay, what are the renewals that you guys have for the next 6 months? No one knew. So it became critical to bring things under control. So The answer was to have a tool for customer success. And for us, the challenge basically was to resolve 3 problems. Problem number 1, how do we get churn under control? Problem number 2, how do we know what our customer base has and how we can increase our renewal rate and have, provide more services to them. And number 3, how do we transform our organization from a technical account into customer success? And that's when we got into Totango. So our first lesson, having that context, was business alignment. So at the company, we knew what were the problems. We got an agreement that those were the 3 key aspects to get the business up and running. And this was critical. There was a moment where we were thinking, if we don't fix this, maybe there is not going to be a business. So we got the buy-in of the executive level. We agree on what were the problems that we were going to resolve. And from that, we start defining the objectives and goals for the new customer success organization. Kind of like customer success was born with Totango in our company. Now, the part about establishing clear business goals and objectives was absolutely key. We have this pressure to get the product implemented as soon as possible. And later on, as you are taking decisions on your implementation, those business goals are going to give you the answer on what to implement or what not to implement, what data to bring in, or maybe what data, forget it, I'm not going to deal with that data right now, later. Let me focus on my business goals. Let's go to the next one.
All right.
Then the other thing that we did is, since we have to make this transformation, we define business scenarios. And it's interesting, in the previous presentation, they were talking about this as well. How do you train your users, not explaining how to use Totango, but explaining them how to accomplish your day-to-day tasks, right? So we define those key business scenarios. In our case, for example, a customer having an outage, right? The typical one, renewal coming in the next 6 months. Another one, an executive business meeting went wrong. That kind of things that we manage in our day-to-day, we translate that into business scenarios, and we figured out what was the data required. And we have a mantra. The mantra is, you identify the data, you organize it, and then you act on it. So basically, when we define the business scenarios, we already knew it. Well, as part of that, we said, okay, when we have this situation, this is going to be our action. What data do we need to manage that? And that's how we got into the identification of the data. Then, what type of metric, or how do you want to see the information in order to be able to act on that? And that's when the organization came. We didn't have segmentation. We have to think about how we are going to segment our customers. There were different opinions, and we start to get the organization around on making sure that we agree, right? So even talking to marketing, like, how do you guys see our business? What do you think is our segment of services? We have to get to that level of agreement. So we organize it, and then, well, we have the actions in place. So, when we implemented success blocks, were not there, but when they came with success blocks, it was easy for us because we have the business scenarios. And then those business scenarios were the base for the training for our CSMs. So that's how we did it with them. Let's go to the next one. And then this is from I guess, what we learned. In our opinion, when you are going to implement Totango, you need to be clear about these 3 aspects. So the Totango hierarchy, we have extensive discussions, being that we were kind of organizing all our data. We started very unrealistically thinking about a 5-level hierarchy. And then as we start to understand the impact and what really means to have a hierarchy, we start to get into something more according to our business goals. And in our case, our hierarchy is the customers and then the different contracts that we have for them. That's it. So focus on renewals. And then the other thing is, when you are defining your hierarchy, you also have to think, what data do you have? Are you going really to be able to measure health or to have enough data at the lower levels of the hierarchy? What is your objective? What is your goal to be there? Then health. Health is a hot topic.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time defining what was going to drive health for our customer, what was an unhealthy customer. So, we went back to our business objectives. What is that we want to achieve? And then we start to analyze what are the factors that we think are causing our customers to churn or not renew. With that, we start to identify key areas where we want to measure health. So we started with, 12 attributes maybe. And then we have been simplifying it, and we are starting to discover that there are things that we considered that were important 1 year ago, and now it's no, our business is turning around. So keep it simple and be prepared for multiple iterations. You are not going to get health right the first time, and it's going to take iteration. As your business evolves, your health score should evolve as well with that. Finally, integration hub, you need to have a clear strategy on how you manage your data. There have been several presentations on that, but it is absolutely key. If you don't have a strategy around that, you are going to fail. The data is so important. And lastly, once we have Totango in place, we were able to identify things that we never realized that were there. I was commenting with someone, we have some customers that were not considered for renewal ever. And we said, this is weird. Why this data is like that? So we start checking, and the problem was our process to book contracts in EBS. So we were booking the contracts incorrectly. And we figured out just that with the data from Totango. So that was amazing. So Seth is going to take us into another one. Okay, yeah, finally, since we have this need to get results quickly, this is the actual timeline for our project. And what I want to show here is how we dedicate a lot of time to the analysis phase. So basically thinking about how we were going to architect the solution. The implementation took really short time, but it was more like the thinking part. So we spent a lot of time on that. So anyways, that's what I want to share with you. Yep. And Seth is now going to take us on how we are managing NPS. Yep. That was part of our business cases.
And thank you so much. Jaime, everyone can still hear me? I feel like my mic turned off for some reason. No? All right. Thank you, Jaime. So what we're going to go into now is kind of pick up from where Jaime left off. So I started at Data Intensity not too long ago, about 5 months ago. I've been in the managed services space doing client success for 16, 17 years. And I'd never had a tool like Totango at my disposal until I started with Totango. And that's kind of what I think is important to kind of realize as someone coming from the outside, kind of jumping into an organization and having Totango at their fingertips. So when I started at Data Intensity, I sat down at my computer. Jaime told me we had Totango, and I got very excited because I wanted to implement it at my last company. And I started diving into Totango, and when I say this, I mean it. Within 20 minutes, I knew my entire client base. Within 20 minutes, I knew every one of my clients, how much they spend, what their health was, what CS had their account. At my old company, that would have taken weeks, and I probably wouldn't have had the information. Now, sure, I had to learn a little bit more after that 20 minutes, but I got a really good understanding right away. And it's just a testament to the product. So what we're going to talk about today is Net Promoter Score and how we use that in Totango with success blocks and success plays. Again, given the audience here, I think everyone is well versed in NPS. Anybody need an education on it? Everybody know what it is? So what we're going to talk about is how you reach success using Totango and the power of success blocks, and we're going to use a business case with a real strong NPS action plan. Talk a little bit about the current challenges with an NPS follow-up plan if you don't use something like Totango, how it's going to help you increase your efficiency and eliminate your noise, how you should go about collecting your data, how you analyze your risk, how you act on those findings from the NPS survey, how you leverage skill sets from other people in your organization, as well as utilize your resources, how you can track your progress, and how you close the loop. So, quick question for you: how many people here use NPS as a health score attribute in Totango? Okay, so a lot of people, and I assume you guys, get those scores. And so anyway, sorry. So wanted to get a show of hands on that. So we're going to take you through these things real quick, and then we'll talk about the current challenges in customer health. Again, I come from the MSP background. Most managed services don't measure health. If they don't do that, it's time to start transforming your CSM team. Data Intensity did it a little while ago. We went from a technical account management model to a client success model. And if there are people out there still not doing it, it's really time to transform your team. If you don't use something like Totango, health is subjective, customer sentiment is tribal knowledge. You really never get a good grasp of client health because everyone's opinion is different, and it's not measurable. It's really hard to translate. So if the executive team or a C-level employee comes in to ask you, hey, how's everything going with that client? You say it's great, but the person on the right says, it's in really bad shape. There's no way to really measure it, and Totango allows you to do that. Without Totango, there's data sprawl. It's emails, spreadsheets, and more meetings, stale data, and missing information. It's very hard to get the data that you need. And knowledge transfer without something like Totango is near impossible. And then what happens is people try to manipulate other systems. They use other CRM systems that aren't designed for health, and it just doesn't do the job. It doesn't work. And then the action of when you're working on something like health or NPS specifically, we're going to get into in a second, it becomes very siloed. People are doing their own thing. They're doing it on their own pace. No one's working together, and it's not easily referenced. It's really hard as a manager to come in one day and say, hey, I wonder how we're doing on that NPS follow-up plan. If one of my people are out, they're on vacation, I'm not going to get that information. I got to go digging through emails. I got to walk down the hall. I got to pick up the phone, and it's really inefficient. I can't get the information that I need. Excuse me, sorry. So as you get through NPS, again, it's not just a number, it's the action that matters, and it's really, we're going to talk about how to increase your operational efficiency and eliminate the noise. Had a lot of interesting conversations around NPS so far over the last couple days about, people talking about an NPS number, and, my opinion is your number is only as good as your own number, and the benchmark you set, your number versus your number versus your number is really irrelevant. It's really what my number is year over year and how we increase it. So when you're putting together a success block specific to NPS, the first thing you need to do is obviously collect your metrics and start that success block. Decide what's important to your organization and what you want to add to health score. Some people do very simple NPS scores with maybe 3-4 questions. Other people may do 30 to 35. So you really have to decide what's important and which factors you want to affect your health. And then you need to analyze your data. You get all this great data, but what does it mean? You need to assess your risk. What is the risk of the data that you just received? And decide which clients are going to need further action. And then you're going to need to act on your findings, creating your segments, creating your success play, and then leveraging the skill sets of other people in the organization and utilizing your resources. Track your progress, and then close the loop, and then decide how you want to do that at the end. Do you resurvey your clients again, or do you update health? How do you want to do that? In our space, when it comes to customer service, one thing that I think is important to know as I stand up here, my CS team, they talk to their clients multiple times a day, 3, 4, 5 times. I remember when a private equity team once bought a company I work for, and they asked me, hey, how often do you talk to your biggest client? Is it once a quarter, once a month? And I looked at them and I said, I talk to them 6 times a day. So in the managed services space, we're constantly talking to our clients. So I think that's important as you look at how I put together this plan. All right, so this is where we're going to get a little bit more tactical. The way that Data Intensity does it is we decided that there were 3 key questions that we felt should affect health, being, are we easy to work with? Are people satisfied with our services? And obviously the traditional Net Promoter Score. And we base that health on the traditional, detractor, passive, promoter. So if you were 9 or 10 in these categories, you were considered healthy. If you were the passive at 7, 8, you were unhealthy. And if you were 6 or below, you were considered unhealthy. And you can see how we set that up there. All right. So as we keep going, this is how we also do customer at a glance. And the reason I think this is important is as I get into assessing your risk, this is important. So when I mentioned when I first started at Data Intensity, I was able to learn the client load in almost 20 minutes. I was able to do that by doing this, by understanding who the customer was, how long they've been with us, what their spend is, what their MRR rank is, or is there any churn in the forecast, are they referenceable, et cetera, et cetera. So as we go through, as we talked about, to analyze your data and assess your risk, is you've got all this great NPS data and you got all these numbers. And this is where every NPS follow-up plan fails. They focus on the number, the board gets stuck on the number, everybody talks about the number, and then that's it. You don't get anywhere. And a month later, you've moved forward. I'm sure you all know that story. So what we did, and this is where Jaime really is very helpful for me on an operational standpoint, is we took all of our clients and we created basically a segment that put all these criteria to identify our clients at risk. So we looked at their health rank, their MRR, how they answered on those 3 questions. Did they say they were likely to leave us? How soon is their contract coming up for renewal? And then basically what we came up with was 50 accounts that we flagged as high risk, about $1.1 million in MRR. So I know there's some very large companies here, but that's a pretty big chunk of our business there is 1.1 in monthly revenue. And then what we did is we looked at every client. So I'm going to highlight one here that came up on the bottom. It's called BRI. And you'll see their health rank is average. Their MRR spend is about $13,000 a month. And you see their scores are pretty good. It's a 9, it's a 7.5. It's an 8.5, and then there's a 3. They said they were likely to leave us, and then, but their contract's not coming up for renewal. So these are one of the clients that was flagged as further follow-up. But if we go follow up with every one of these clients, we're never going to get anywhere. We're not going to get done. So as I did a deeper dive into this specific client, I realized that I was going there next week. I was going to see these guys anyway. So I went to see them, and basically going to talk to them and sitting down with the stakeholders there, I realized that these guys were fine. There was absolutely no risk there at all, and there was no reason to go down a further NPS action plan for these clients. It would have been a waste of time. So we put an N here on the left under the CSAT plan required to basically tell the business, like, this does not need a plan. However, in 6 months, when my CEO goes to look and says, why didn't you follow up with them, and he sees an N, that's not going to be enough, right? So I require myself and the CSMs to put a note in here on why we decided that this client didn't need it in this situation. I put my note in, client is good shape. I was just there. They were only flagged to being over that spend threshold. They had a 7 on satisfaction. But it was interesting. When I was actually there at the client, I asked the client like why they gave us a 7. They actually said they thought the 7 was a good score. So, and they're really happy and they were under contract. So we would have been wasting all these cycles really for essentially no reason in this situation. But if you don't capture the data of why you did that, that's going to come back to haunt you a couple months later. Going back to the other thing is now that we have our risk, we start with these 50 clients and we put basically a Y in this left column to all the clients that required a further CSAT plan. And then that's going to kick it off. So we started with 50 clients. We vetted some out. Some of the CSs decided we don't need it here. And then we moved on with our plan. So what we basically did was, we need to act on your findings and create your action plan and create your success play. So what we did was, as a management team, we created a 4-step CSAT follow-up plan here that we wanted everybody to follow. And we designed the plan to complete in 4 weeks time frame. So we're going to take the 26 clients that we now identified and move them through this 4-step CSAT plan and make sure we put together go-to green plans for every one. When we started this slide deck a few months ago, we had literally just started, so I'm happy we're a little further along than that says right now. But this is where I was talking about before, is we're going to get very tactical into how we go about doing this. This isn't a high-level strategy discussion. This is actual examples. So as we created the 4-step CSAT follow-up plan, we came up with 4 crucial steps. And again, the reason we did this is every client success manager is different. Some just started in their career, some have been around a long time. They don't actually really know sometimes what to do, so you have to give them the tools to do it, and Totango allows you to do that in one central place. So we put together the 4-step plan and basically acknowledge the situation with customer. With any NPS plan, the most important thing is acknowledging with the customer that you heard them. If there's one thing you do, that's the most important thing. Number 2, prepare the presentation and your go-to green plan. Number 3 was review the go-to green plan with the customer. And number 4 was make sure you create all your follow-up tasks, touch points, action items when you close up the plan. And our goal, and we gave this to the business stakeholders, was to complete this in a 4-week time frame when we got our results.
Let me add something here.
Sure.
You have to remember that these guys, the CSMs, were technical account managers. So for us, having something like this is great because they are able to do the things that they are learning the role of being a CSM. And this is actually helping us in that transformation that I was telling you about.
Yeah, thank you. And again, it allows us all to do in one centralized place, which is shared by anyone in the business who has access can see it. So as we started going through our plan, you really need to provide your assets and utilize your resources. So and I was talking to the people at Totango, and I love the asset tab under the success play. It's a great central place where you can store information. So in this success play with the NPS follow-up, I took all the 2019 CSAT raw results and I put them right here. And the reason I did that again was to increase the operational efficiency. So if anyone needed to say, okay, I got to reach out to the client and do this, what did they score us again? Where were we? I want to look at the actual comments. They don't have to go searching through their old email or trying to bother me and saying, hey, did you send me that thing? They can go right here and all the information is there. The other thing we were able to do is create a 5-page or a 5-point PowerPoint presentation with the NPS follow-up plan that I'll show you in a second for every CSM to use. So when they're ready to go work on their client, they could pop in here, they could see the results, they could open up that PowerPoint and everything's already laid out for them because they might not know how to do this stuff. Again, they're maybe a year into their career, maybe they're just learning what NPS is. They might not have the tools to do it, and Totango allows you to do that here in one centralized location. So as we get through, talking about the individual steps themselves, is within the CSAT plan, we put very specific steps of what was needed so everybody knew what they had to do. In this case, step 1 is we need to make sure an executive sponsor reaches out to the customer that we received their survey. We acknowledge that we need to improve and ensure that they will act on their concerns. Because we use success plays and because we use Totango, we were able to push these just right to the executive. We didn't have to do anything, no emails, no nothing. So if our CEO got this in his inbox, says, hey, I have to do this thing, he could click right in here. He knows exactly what he needs to do. I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing that with a CEO, but you could if you wanted. And then you can track exactly how you're doing here. So we started out with 26. When I put this screenshot in last time, we were halfway there, so we were making progress. And then what you can do is the way that we do our accounts, again, we're in the managed services space, very high touch client relationship. So every one of our clients has these key people on their account. So every client has an executive sponsor. In this scenario, executive sponsor got the activity. He knew what needed to be done. He picked up the phone. He called the client. He put his notes right here in step 1. They had concerns around some unused hours. Engineers are not following response protocols. They're calling the wrong users. In our industry, that's about the worst thing that can happen. And don't view us as a trusted advisor. So he put these notes right in here, closed the task, and then it pushes it to the next person. All this is being done without any meetings and without any emails and without any communication. This is all being done in the system, and that's the beauty of Totango. So now my CSM has everything they need. They know this has been done. I know it's been done. Everyone knows where we are. We go off to the next step. And then this was that template I had put together. And again, you guys all know NPS. Like, you know how this works. You probably could create your own templates, I'm sure. But I gave the CSMs a pick list of here's the themes we heard. Here were 7 major ones: monitoring, staff turnover. And now the CSM could literally go in and just cut the ones that weren't relevant to their certain scenario based on the feedback they heard from the executive sponsor as well as the survey results. So they were able to actually pull together a go-to green plan based on that information with a simple cut and paste in almost 60 seconds. So very powerful. Again, you can't do that without a tool like Totango. Try to do that like through another CRM system. It'll never happen. So So as we keep moving forward now, I have the ability to look at a centralized view. I can see how we're doing. I can come into the morning. I can see how we're tracking against this. Again, we promised to do this in 4 weeks. That's a pretty big ask and a pretty big lift in our industry, but I can see it right here. I can see how we're progressing. I can see 34 of our 104 tasks are done. We're 33% of the way done. So, and my supervisor can pop in there anytime and see it. Doesn't have to bother me. Doesn't have to email me. He can see it right there at his own time and his own pace. But then you also can go in specifically and see where everyone's doing. So in this task, we're a little bit, maybe we're a little bit behind. I want to go in and I want to find, I know why. Well, I can see it right here, who's done, who's not. I can see which ones are completed. I can see if there's a theme between my guys. In this case, one of my guys is kind of not doing the job. Well, maybe he was on vacation, maybe he wasn't, maybe he doesn't know really what to do, but I can see it all here in one view, and then my manager can cascade it and see it up through the whole organization. Again, really, really powerful stuff and easy to use and quick to use. And again, you can do it, again, when I talk about increased operational efficiency, you can do it on your own pace when you're ready to go. You don't have to wait for anybody else. Just a couple of examples that I just wanted to put out there as I track your progress and assign your activities. When you're doing a 4-step NPS plan and you say you want to get it done in 4 weeks, the first thing that everyone said to me is, well, you can't cure all that in 4 weeks. And I said, well, my intention is not to cure it all in 4 weeks. My intention is to get in front of every client within 4 weeks and put together our action. So if you meet with a client and they say, hey, yeah, we want to have an executive business review, or we're not happy about this, we're not happy about that, some of these things can take weeks, months to cure. It's not going to be fast. But if you put them through that plan and you have the steps and you can track it, then that's really what you need to do, and that was acceptable to the business. So in this case, things with this client were pretty good. We have an EBR scheduled, but they still said they wanted an executive to reach out. It's been a while. They wanted just to be sure. So I can take this, I can close out the action item, but I can do a post follow-up, assign it right to myself to follow up with this person, and it's just a very, very powerful thing to do. I just want to show you guys a quick example. A couple more examples too coming out of it. In this case, coming out of this survey and the Go-To Green Plan, the client really did not view us as a trusted advisor. They would like to have a business review by the end of 2019. So we can't cure this one in 4 months and make them happy, in 4 weeks and make them happy in 4 weeks. But what we can do is move forward to the Go-To Green Plan, satisfy the ask from the executive team, and then get to this one a couple of months later. This client happens to be in Texas, so it's going to take us a while to get there. But we know we've done the right steps. We've acknowledged it with them. Client's already going to be happier, even though maybe we haven't done this. I can assign it right to my CSM because they're assigned into Totango, and it's super easy. Just another example here. Client wanted to talk about their unused hours, same kind of thing. So again, when you're talking about an NPS follow-up plan, everybody wants to make every single client happy in a certain amount of time. That's not possible. You can get in front of every client in a certain amount of time and let them what they're doing, let them know what we're doing, and also set up proper follow-up, but you're not going to turn all these clients around in 4 weeks. If you can, more power to you. But at least you have the plan and you've gone through everybody. So as you continue to roll through your CSAT plan, at the end here is really where you need to close the loop. And again, another place where a lot of NPS follow-up plans will fail is what you do. You just spent all this time, energy, you put together this block, the success play, you're tracking it every day, but what benefit did it really gain you at the end? And that's something you really need to be able to do. So again, when we started this plan, we had 50 clients identified, about $1.1 million in monthly revenue. We parsed that down to 26 clients that we felt were in good shape, didn't need follow-up action. And then at the end of this plan, again, we're still working on it, but maybe we have 6 or 7 clients that are still unhappy, right? But hey, look how, and now maybe it's $100,000 of revenue. I mean, really, you make some great strides, and Totango will allow you to now prove that out to your executive team. As you assign your activities, you need to make sure you create and assign your action items like I showed you. You have your post-action items now that you've cascaded over to your teams, and you can still close out the success play even if maybe you haven't hit those tasks yet. And then what are you going to do now with the data? Are you going to resurvey your clients? In our case, we're going to do that. So we'll send our clients a smaller, stripped-down version of the survey, and then you're transparent with them. You know they know you heard them, and they're really happy with what you do. A lot of times, clients aren't looking for the immediate resolution; they're just looking for the acknowledgement and the plan to cure it. Then of course, you have to cure it. And then how do you want to update health? So Now you can compare. You can see where your health was when you started to where you are when you ended, and that's really the thing you need for your executive team to say, hey, we just put all this time, energy into this plan. Everybody helped, exec sponsors, salespeople, everybody worked together on this. Here's was our health score when we started. Here's where it was when it ended, and you really have tangible evidence of what you did. Without Totango or without Success Plays, I mean, what are you doing? Excel spreadsheets and emails, like trying to do what I'm doing right now in front of the executive team. I mean, it just gets very complex. But with Totango, you're able to really just show that tangible stuff at any point. And then you obviously want to present to the business how health was averted, how much risk how health was impacted, how much risk you averted, and then it really sets you up for a nice way to do that in the future. So if you've gone through this once, when you go to do it on your cycle, maybe it's 6 months or maybe a year, maybe you do 3 months, most people don't do, but 6 months or a year, when you go to do it again, the executive team knows what you did last time and what the impact was last time, so they're ready to go. They've seen it, they understand it, they're excited about it because you went through this. So that's what I got for you today. And then with everyone's last slide, any questions? There you go. Thank you.
Actually, that was my question. Why are people not clapping, sir?
That's a fair question.
It's more of a observation than question.
Yes.
We, Vinayak Trivedi Bentley Systems, we have a huge problem or rather challenge in terms of adoption, so much so that we are completely blinded at the moment of all the things that user success can do.
Yeah.
We, 90% of our users are at 6 years older product. We want to move them. So the adoption is our challenge. And whatever you do, you are being measured on the needle is moving or not moving on adoption. Yeah. I'm thinking we ought to be, a little bit, it's kind of light bulb moment for me, that we try to, while we are pushing on the adoption, because that is immediate problem, we could also have some tangible progress being shown that these are also happening, so don't get completely blinded that adoption is not happening, which is a chronic problem that has been there for 5-6 years. Right. It's not going to go away, but here are the tangible progress being made.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, NPS will allow you to show another way. I know that wasn't more of a statement than a question, but that's one thing you do. I'm glad we gave you a light bulb moment. So did you want to add something?
Well, for adoption, there is one thing. We started with, 16 success plays. And at some point we said no, that's not going to work. So we just started with one success play. For the first, 4 months, only one success play. And then we introduce another one. We have meetings with the team explaining from a business case perspective why the success play, this is not extra work. This is actually to help you to drive our goal. And the other thing that really helped was to put, in our case, in perspective, how the business is being impacted, right? And if we take those actions, for example, we are going to be able to control churn. And I guess connecting people with the business objectives and their day-to-day operations and how you are having an impact on the bottom line, that helps us tremendously, raising that awareness. So keep it simple at the beginning, I would say.
So Seth, Jaime, thank you both for the good presentation there. I'm curious a little bit more about the impact of NPS on your health scoring. And it looks like you have certain thresholds, yellow, green, red. Yeah. I'm curious how you handle it when there is no NPS survey provided by the customer, because as we know, sometimes no news is the worst news, and I'm just curious how you address that.
That's an excellent question. I'm gonna defer that to Jaime.
Yeah. So,
I'm the only reason I'm kidding is I've asked. Like I said, I just started with data intensity, so I actually am asking that same question.
So, so the first thing is when we did the analysis, we realized that NPS alone is not a predictor of churn. So that concept that SAP has about XO, I love it because we have it, but we never formalize it like that. We're like, wow, I'm going to start using it, by the way. So NPS alone is not a predictor of churn. And in our case, we were looking to get our business back in track, so we were trying to predict churn. So for customers that don't have NPS, we consider them neutral. So they are not negative, they are not promoters, neutral. But then we consider the other attributes coming from our systems to measure the overall health. That's how we manage it.
Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much, Seth and Jaime. That was
Thank you.
great. We have a break now, so please don't forget the G2 crowd reviews. You have the Meet Experts. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.